Hello, local VW dealer? Yes, it's a 2005 Jetta turbo diesel with a BEW engine. Well, it's throwing a check engine code 2564. A new turbocharger? A new intake manifold? How much is that going to cost?
Oh no!
Admittedly, that introduction was a dramatization. However, for a lot of people, it's not far from the truth. See, when I took this car to the Volkswagen dealer to get a quote on getting this check engine code rectified, they told me they would need to replace not only the turbocharger, but also the intake manifold, as the outside bell of the turbocharger is cast into it. They quoted me a whopping $2,950 for both of these parts combined, and then another almost $1,000 on top of that for labor. After taxes, it was well over $3,000, and the car drives fine. So today, I'm going to show you how to fix that problem for a fraction of that amount of money. In my case, it was under $200. I'll walk you through it step by step. It's an easy repair. So come along for the ride and let's get working. Now the actual problem with the car is this piece right here. This is called the VNT Actuator, and it's a little vacuum operated solenoid that's situated down here behind a ton of lines and wires on the back side of the turbocharger. And what this does is when a vacuum charge is applied, this rod here slides down and moves a little lever, which causes the vanes on the inside of the turbocharger to rotate, like so. This changes the boost pressure and helps regulate emissions as well as other things. Now before I go ripping this thing apart, I'm going to crawl underneath the car and I'll show you what happened to the old one. Alright, so we're lying underneath the Jetta here. Here's the old VNT actuator, as you can see, situated on the back side of the turbocharger. Here's the turbocharger right there. And I'm going to try to squeeze my camera up in here to show you what the issue is. I'm not sure if you can see that, but that old VNT actuator has a huge rust hole in it. And that can has a propensity to rust out, and then if there's a hole in it, it will not hold enough vacuum to operate the diaphragm inside. And if there's no vacuum and no diaphragm operation, that little lever is not getting moved. And there's a sensor in the bottom right here which tells it if it's moving or not. And since it's not moving, the car says there's a problem, which there is. So we're going to take this one off and we're going to put the new one on. Stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to take off is this intake pipe, which runs down to the turbocharger. We've got one clamp here, and then a clamp down below, as well as a vacuum line and a 5mm screw. So we're just going to remove those. Okay, intake manifold is now nice and out of the way. I was incorrect about one thing. The bolt, which is right here, there's a bolt also down there. As you can see, it's right there on the side of the engine block. And you have to take that one off as well. And then the intake manifold just kind of pops off. Now from the top here, you can see, I can look way down in here. I can get the camera to focus. And I can see the VNT actuator. It's right there. See it? There it is. So what we've got to do now is I've got to unscrew the little bolt. If I can get a good shot of this. There's a nut on the top right here. Pardon my dirty fingers. But we've got to loosen the top one so that we can pull the VNT actuator down once I unbolt it. You can just about make it out right there. Get that camera to focus not on this little tube, but yeah, there it is, right there on the turbocharger. Nope, not my finger. Focus on that. There we go. See the little nut on the top there? That's what we're going to unscrew. That's 10mm, and you just kind of reach back there with a little wrench, like this, and it comes right off. Okay, I've now removed the little nut. So I'm now going to put my wrench back down there again and take the two bolts off that hold the VNT actuator on. Okay, so I have removed the old actuator. You can see the problem in a bit more detail. It's really rusty, and it actually rattles when you shake it. You can hear the little bits of rust inside there rattling around.
This is kind of a bear to get off. The bolts were pretty seized because they bolt into the turbocharger. So I used this crow's foot wrench to get around like that, and then they came right off. So I'm going to go ahead and put the new one on. I'm going to try to do this in a little bit of a hurry. But before I do that, we've got to make sure that these bolts are at the same level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a ruler, and I'm going to measure this shank, and then I'm going to screw this nut down that far. Okay, so if we look down in here, you can see the new one is installed. You can see it down there. So now what we have to do is reassemble the intake side of the engine. Now, one thing that I ended up removing after the fact was this piece of tubing that connects the intercooler, which is this plastic piece that goes down into the front of the car, to the intake manifold with the butterfly valve. It's just a piece of hose. It just presses in on both sides. There's a little flange here. There's another flange with a circlip here, but that's very easy to disassemble. You don't have to do this. It just helps a little bit. So now I'm going to put the intake manifold back together, and we're going to take it for a drive and see if that fixes the problem. Should do. It's time. Okay, so I just got back from about a 45-mile round-trip drive. As you can see, there's no check engine light, and the ABS and traction control lights turned off as well. I believe those were because the car was in what it calls limp mode, but those are all off. The car drives perfectly fine, all for under $200 and about an hour and a half of labor. So when the dealership tells you how much it's going to cost, laugh in their face, fix it yourself, and keep on driving. Until next time, everyone, thanks for watching.